Hello and welcome to the Mercedes AMG PETRONAS F1 Team Heritage Facility. Just down the road in Brackley and Brixworth, the hard work continues, preparing for what could be one of the most exciting seasons in recent memory. Today, we will be looking forward to the year ahead, discussing the huge regulation changes and the resulting innovations that the team have made. And most importantly, we will be casting our eye over the new W17. But there is only one place that we could begin, and that is with team principal and CEO Toto Wolff. Toto, it's lovely to see you. A new season, a new set of regulations, and a brand new generation of F1 cars taking to the track. Talk to us about what the energy is like and the feeling within the team ahead of such a seismic shift.
Yeah, good morning, first of all. It is super exciting. Looking at the car, you can clearly see the difference. It's smaller, it's compact, it's nimble, it's agile. I think this year also in terms of the livery, we've achieved something that is pretty spectacular. And we've been in Barcelona and we've seen those cars first time on speed, and we are totally excited to see how the new power unit regulations and how the new chassis regulations are going to pan out.
Talk to us a little bit more about the Barcelona shakedown. How did everything go last week?
I think the highlight in the Barcelona shakedown was the reliability of the power unit and the car. It was about clocking miles, about making sure that all the system would function properly, the interaction of the power unit and the chassis, fine-tuning some of the new toys that we have in, boosting the engine, and that was pretty successful. Other than that, it's really difficult to interpret times because we haven't seen our competitors really on low fuel runs. Neither have we seen them running really well over 3 days. Obviously, they had their problems. So we really don't have a performance picture contrary to what many people think.
Now, Formula One has never been so competitive and so popular. What sort of impact do you see these regulation changes having on the sport?
I think they will have a great impact because we're adding another dimension. When it was the DRS that allowed us to really slipstream each other and overtake, now we're having more functionality. There is this strategic, almost chess-like component that comes into play, where drivers can decide where they're gonna, call upon more power, and for overtaking and for doing this kind of games. I think it's going to be fantastic. Also for our younger audiences, it becomes even more of a video game character without taking anything away from the sport. Best man and best machine is going to win.
I can't wait until we get into it. I really can't. Now, the off-season is always a very busy period for the development team. But how much more effort have you seen from everyone, not just over the last few months, but over the last few years as well, in building up to this 2026 season?
We obviously had some more challenging times in the last few years, respectable but challenging, and there is so much love and determination and passion that has gone into developing the power unit, which obviously has a very long lead time. It's been many years that HPP has been working on the new power unit whilst keeping the current one, so the 2025, running and competitive. And on the chassis side, a monumental effort, because we had our Navy SEAL team that made the best out of the 2025 car. That's how we called it, because it's literally a small team that was deployed to win, that made the best out of the 2025 car. And then at the same time, practically most of the engineering side in Brackley that was working on the 26 car, and there is so much excitement that has already built up to see is the car going to be good.
And with all of that work in mind, what did it feel like to finally see the car rolling out onto track?
Yeah, it was exciting. Obviously, shakedown as completely normal over the last many years, wet, cold Silverstone, and it's difficult to interpret whether the car is quick, but Kimi and George said feels all right. And then Barcelona, 3 days, calmly working through the process and seeing what the car can do. Obviously, with all the challenges that a new car will bring upon, and starting to fine tune then a bit, so it was okay.
Thank you very much, Toto. We'll be talking to you a little more later on. Now, success for the W17 out on track will be determined by fine margins in major areas, not least the 2026 power unit and the revolutionary fuel that drives it. Managing Director of Mercedes AMG High Performance Powertrains, Hal Thomas, and PETRONAS Executive Vice President and CEO Downstream, Datuk Sazali Hamza, join us now to discuss the latest regulations.
Hal, Datuk Sazali, welcome to the show. Let's dive straight in. I think it's safe to say that there is a significant change to the power unit this year. Hal, talk us through the structural changes and the impact they'll have.
So yeah, it's a completely new power unit this year. Not a single bolt carried over, I don't think. The biggest change is in the electrical side of the power unit. Whereas previously we've had two electric motors, two MGUs as we call them, the H, which is attached to the turbo, and the K, which powers the car. The H is gone. That's part of the history, and the MGU-K that actually powers the car, that's gone up in size. So previously it was 120 kilowatts, now it's 350 kilowatts. So all of that means that the electrical and combustion engine are about 50-50 because we've reduced the fuel flow to the combustion engine. And so a very different beast, and the way that we use it on track, very, very different to what we're doing currently.
Right, so where do you even start with a challenge like this? Do you remember the first day you and your team sat down and actually began work?
There wasn't really a fire the gun moment of starting, because we were working together with the other manufacturers and the FIA to develop the regulations at the start. So there was kind of a lead in before any real sort of firing of a gun. And during that period, we were really just looking at what's the sensitivities. Where do we need the combustion engine? Where do we need the electrical system to be very, very effective and efficient, so that we'd be able to get great lap time? And those are the areas thinking, right, those are the things we've got to nail, and those are the things we've got to start with first.
Well, along with changes to the PU this year, Formula One has introduced a brand new set of challenges when it comes to the fuel for the cars, challenges that PETRONAS has met head-on. Datuk Sazali, tell us about the innovations that PETRONAS is introducing for 2026.
Yeah, for 2026, actually PETRONAS have introduced advanced sustainable fuel. So this is the replacement of the previous fuel that we have, which is based on fossil.
And how much time and effort goes into developing this fuel?
Yeah, it took about 2 years plus that we have started it from scratch. And based on our past experience in developing the fuel, if you know that the regulation of fuel standard is keep changing. So from there, we always have to innovate to really meet that standard. So similarly, we apply those experience in this development of advanced sustainable fuel.
So let's dig a little bit deeper. What is it actually made of, and how is it different from previous fuels?
Yeah, this is made up from the renewable feedstock as well as waste material or non-food biomass that we use for the feedstock of this advanced sustainable fuel.
And how important a step is it from Formula One to be implementing this new fuel technology?
This is a meaningful step for Formula One. Fuel is the heart of the sport. It powers every lap and every acceleration. We are formulating sustainable fuel that power the car without compromising performance. And this is when PETRONAS experience come in. For decades, we have been developing fuel technology in motorsport as well as road user through PETRONAS Premac, developing performance, responsiveness as well as efficiency while meeting the evolution of fuel standard.
And of course, PETRONAS will continue to impact performance in other areas as well.
Yes, definitely. And in this, it's this important role also that we develop our lubricant fluid from PETRONAS Syntium, as well as on the transmission oil, PETRONAS Tutila, and this is a combined package that we serve for the Formula One engine.
How crucial is a strong connection between PETRONAS and Mercedes AMG when it comes to developing the power unit and the fuel for this new era?
It's completely essential. there's no way you could develop a combustion engine without knowing a lot about the fuel and how the fuel works, and there's no way you could develop the fuel without knowing what's the appetite of the engine. So we have to work incredibly closely as a partnership to make sure that we get the most performance out of the combustion engine at the end of the day.
Well, it's a partnership that's lasted for over 15 years. How proud are you of what's been achieved so far, and how excited are you for what's to come in the future?
Yeah, when I look at back 15 years ago, definitely there's a lot of things that we have innovated together, and it's happy to see from initial when 15 years ago when we joined Formula One, we are maybe at the back of the team, but now we are in the front line of the team, and we are really proud of that. And together with Mercedes AMG, actually we have moved that. And moving forward, actually, we are hoping that we also provide a solution for future fuel, a sustainable fuel for everyday car. So that is our ambition.
Well, the immediate future sees a trip to Bahrain for testing before the first race, of course, in Melbourne in just 34 days. Firstly, how was the Barcelona shakedown, and how busy are the next few weeks ahead?
Barcelona shakedown was pretty successful. Our target was to get lots of kilometres under our belts to check out that the systems and the interactions between the car and the PU were in place. We managed to walk. We weren't running, but we managed to walk. And that's what the Bahrain test is going to be all about now, is to get that sophistication in, is the areas that we thought, oh, it's not quite working correctly, make sure those are all nailed on and perfect. Couple of weeks of testing in Bahrain, that is going to be a busy time, because we've got to get all of that completely ready for the start in Melbourne.
Well, gentlemen, thank you both for taking the time to talk to us today, and best of luck for the season ahead.
Thank you.
Exciting changes to the fuel and power unit set to have a huge impact out on track, and the team have already been putting the car through its paces ahead of the new season. Alongside the PU and sustainable fuel upgrades, this year also sees the introduction of changes to the aerodynamic and chassis regulations. Technical Director James Allison joins Cameron now with his take on the new developments.
Welcome to the show, James. Just how significant are the changes that you've been required to implement this year? The cars are narrower, lighter, smaller. Is this the biggest shift that we've ever seen in F1?
I don't know that it's the biggest shift that has ever been in F1, but it is certainly the biggest change that I've seen in the 35 years I've been doing it. Brand new power units, brand new chassis rules, new tyres as well while we're at it, and also an overall change to the electronic control unit that looks after all of those systems in the car. So yeah, a big old challenge to do, and a very important thing to do on the chassis side of the company, because these new power unit rules are very, very significantly different in the way that the energy is delivered down to the road, and they need a chassis set of regulations that are a complement to that improve the efficiency of the chassis by making it lighter, by making it smaller so it has less drag, by introducing active aerodynamics so that that too complements the overall efficiency of the vehicle. So yes, a huge change. Normally we would only do big things sort of one at a time, a chassis or a power unit or tyres, but altogether that's quite a budget of work for all of us.
Yeah, so how do you and your team react when you're presented with an opportunity like this?
Well, it doesn't arrive all at once. So the regulations, they come as a sort of evolutionary process that we are involved in the conversation, and we see the direction of thought, we contribute to the direction of thought, and as the final regulations start to crystallize, then you can see where the effort is going to need to go in order to find the lap time that's going to be necessary to be competitive. And you just divide up parts of your team to look at each of those areas in turn, and then try to coordinate all of those activities together so that it comes together as a coherent whole, as a car that we can be proud of when we launch it.
You mentioned active aerodynamics there. Let's get into that a bit. Can you explain what the changes are to the front and rear wings, and how will they be used, on the straights and in the corners?
It's, I think, one of the things that's going to attract a lot of conversation on the car, probably an engineering challenge that's a little bit less daunting than much of the rest of the rules, but because it's very visual, and it will be seen on every straight, it's going to be a talking point. But probably easiest to describe with reference to the previous rules, actually, because the active aero on the rear of the car is not so different to DRS in terms of the way in which it works. It tips up a flap at the rear, that causes a lot of the lift to disappear off the wing, which then means it sheds a load of drag, which means you can go down the straights quicker. The difference actually is not so much the geometry changes, but the way in which it's implemented. So where with DRS you're only allowed to use it when you're within 1 second of the person you were chasing, and only on certain straights, on the straight line mode, when the rear wing flips up at the back on the car, you get that on every straight, on every track, on every lap, with every car. It isn't dependent on being close to somebody in front. So that drag reduction is always available. That efficiency uplift for the vehicle is always available and is a big part of complementing the hybrid power units that are coming for 2026. On the front, we also have a front flap that backs off, but actually front wings, they really don't shed drag very much. When the front flap backs away, the drag of the vehicle is virtually unchanged. What is changing, however, is that if you're getting rid of a load of downforce at the back, then in order to keep the car so it has a good balance of downforce front to rear, then if you back off the front wing as well, then the center of pressure of the car, the point where the downforce acts, won't move. So the handling of the car doesn't change very much. That enables you to get these wings backed off earlier on the straights than we would have done previously, where if you just back off the rear wing, you have to wait until the car's going really quite quick before the car is stable enough to cope with that. If you back off both of them together, then you can back them off earlier on the straight, you can benefit from that rear wing drag reduction for longer on the straight, and so it adds to the efficiency of the vehicle.
So you're talking about DRS, and obviously we're losing that for this year, but we're going to gain overtake mode. Would you mind explaining exactly what it is and what impact it might have on the racing this year?
Okay, so overtake mode is a little bit like DRS in some ways, but completely different in others. So the way in which it's like DRS is that, similar to DRS, you only get it when you're within a certain distance of a car that you're chasing. So get within a second and then you're gifted overtake mode, which, like DRS, get within a second, you're allowed to use the DRS flap last year. That's the way in which it's similar. The way in which it's different is it doesn't have anything to do with aerodynamics, and it has instead everything to do with the hybrid system and the energy management within the hybrid system. So it gifts you the opportunity, if your car is capable of it, of harvesting a bit more electrical energy each lap. And because that electrical energy is then harvested, it can be used. And it can be used on the straights to help you a bit in terms of chasing down someone who is in front of you. And not only does it let you harvest a bit more electrical energy in the lap, it also lets you put that power down on the straights in a way that is a bit more advantageous to the trailing car than the leading car. Now, that is a useful thing for overtaking. It's not quite as powerful as DRS used to be, but there are other things happening on the car as well which will be in the mix with this overtake. And there's also a thing called the boost button, where if the driver presses it, then it just cancels all the sort of automated electrical scheduling in the car and just gives it full whack. For as long as the battery is capable of doing so, you get the full might of that 350 kilowatt electric motor alongside everything that the petrol side of the internal combustion engine is capable of delivering, and that is a fairly fearsome amount of power for as long as it's capable of providing it. Of course, you then might have to pay a price for that later on in the lap, because you may have emptied your batteries, got past someone, only to find that they have hung on to a bit of their power or their energy to maybe squirt by you later on. But it's going to definitely mix things up as drivers learn how to juggle these opportunities that the scheduling of power and energy around the lap provide in this new regulation.
It's going to be exciting to see how it all plays out. Now, in this period before the first race in March, we've seen the cars out on track testing. Has there been any surprises so far?
I think the biggest thing that surprised us, and I'm guessing it's true also for our competitors, has been the really quite astonishing level of reliability that we've seen up and down the grid. With everything new as it is, I think it would have been reasonable to expect this first shakedown test to have been just a symphony of red flags and smoking vehicles, but that really hasn't happened. And in fact, for the most part, the reliability of these cars has been absolutely comparable and in some cases better than last year winter testing, with things that were far more mature and which were very well understood. So that has definitely been a surprise to us, a welcome surprise, and I hope something that means that we can go into the new season just concentrating on the racing rather than trying to keep everything held together with baling wire and sticking tape.
And how interested have you been in seeing the solutions that other teams have developed?
Well, intensely, of course. Everybody spends the whole of the year or so it takes to design and build these cars working in a vacuum, absolutely focused on what you're doing, intensely caring about putting as much performance as you possibly can into those cars, but knowing that up and down the land and abroad as well, there are other groups doing exactly the same, wrestling with the same challenge, and thinking about it probably differently to the way we are. And so when we do all emerge into the light, we just fall upon their designs to try to see what they may have found that we may have missed. And we take as many photos as we can, and then we will, if we see something that is tricky to understand, we will put people on it until they do. If we see something that we think, oh crikey, we should have thought of that, then we'll start working on that as fast as we can. And just overall, we are completely shameless plagiarists. And the reason we're shameless is that we know all of our competitors are exactly the same. It's part of the sport, is doing what you can with the skills you have on your own, and then when you all come together, then working out what other people have done and trying to learn from them as well.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be a brilliant year. I can't wait for it to get started. James, thank you so much for taking the time to talk through it with us, and I wish you all the best of luck for the season.
Thank you very much.
We're joined once again by Toto Wolff alongside George Russell, Kimi Antonelli and Fred Vesti. Good morning to you all. George, I'm going to come to you first at the beginning of what will be your 5th year driving with the Works Mercedes team. How prepared and excited are you for the year ahead?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Really excited to get going into the season. Obviously, there's been so much hard work going into producing this car. The power unit's been in production for a number of years now, and obviously this car, everybody at Brackley's been working so hard over the last 12 to 14 months to prepare it, and just really excited to go racing now.
We've spoken this morning already about the significant changes that we're seeing this season. How has that impacted your approach to 2026?
I think you need to go in with an open mind, because we've been driving a lot on the simulator, but until you drive the car properly at different circuits, understanding what the challenges are, understanding the new power unit with the overtake mode, the boost button. We obviously got an opportunity in Silverstone and Barcelona to drive the car, and the new power units, I think for all of the teams, are just so fast. And when you use that boost button down the straight and you got the full 350 kilowatts from the engine, the thing flies. So that's really, really cool. And with the active aerodynamics, it just looks, I don't know, it looks racy. And I like the look of the cars, a bit smaller. They feel lighter, they feel more nimble through the corners. So for us, it's more enjoyable to drive, and hopefully it's going to produce better racing for everyone to enjoy at home.
Well, we are definitely all looking forward to that. Kimi, coming to you now, you're fresh off of your rookie season. How excited are you for your 2nd year with the team?
Yeah, I'm very, very excited, of course. Last year was a massive learning experience, and definitely this year is going to be a new opportunity for everyone. It's something completely new. Obviously, we got the chance to drive the car in Silverstone and Barcelona, and was really good test. Especially, we learn a lot about the car as drivers and as a team, because obviously it's completely new and there's so much to learn and to discover still. But really looking forward to this season. I mean, definitely I've experienced a lot last year and definitely feel more prepared ahead of 2026.
And how different did it feel to drive this car compared to last year's?
Yeah, definitely it felt quite different, but I would say it felt different in a nicer way. Obviously, George explained a lot, but the car, it does feel quite a bit lighter, a bit more agile, and it's shorter as well. And definitely it's good fun, and the power unit is, especially when you get the 350 kilowatts, it gives you, a good kick. So it feels quick. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the first lap, I went full throttle. I kind of, it didn't scare, but it was like, wow, it feels fast, especially also with the active aero. Obviously we got the front wing as well this year, which is not as potent as the rear wing, but you do feel it a bit. And but I have to be honest, it's been a lot of fun to drive, and really cannot wait to hit the track back in Bahrain.
Gosh, I love that. Fred, coming to you now. We're delighted this morning to confirm the news that you're stepping up to the third driver role. How excited are you for that, and what is that going to involve?
Well, I'm extremely excited to be joining the team, George and Kimi, trackside more often this year as third driver. That's going to be very cool for me. I've worked with this team for 5 years now, so to step up even closer to my dream of racing in Formula One, that's a huge privilege. And obviously I've been working so hard on this car, W17, with everyone in Brackley. So to get to see it around the world with F1 is going to be very special.
You have put in potentially more laps than anyone else on the W17 behind the scenes in the simulator. What has it been like seeing the development of it and now seeing it out on track?
Well, first of all, it's been awesome to see how motivated everyone has been on this W17, including myself. We've put in thousands of hours in the simulator, testing everything and finding new things. So yeah, it's been very cool, and to see it run out in Barcelona and run well was very, very cool to see. And hopefully I get to drive it sometime.
Absolutely. Toto, coming to you now. Quite the driver lineup that we have alongside us here. What's your assessment of these three drivers? What do they each bring to the team that's unique?
Well, I start with Fred. I think Fred deserves the third driver role. You've put in so many hours, like you said, in developing last generation's car and this one, the hard overnight work in trying to help us on a race weekend. And it's a good feeling. You know this car probably better than anyone. And if Kimi or George were to have a fish poisoning, we know that we have a driver that can deliver. Now, obviously, we don't want them to have a fish poisoning, but just the sheer knowing that you're there, that's good. Well, to Kimi, having a laugh.
That's important.
That's important. We have laughs, and that's good. We've always maintained the laughing, even when it was not so much to laugh about. I think, like we've said, Kimi had a good year in 2025 in the sense of exactly to the expectations we had. Fantastic performances and then difficult races, and that's totally normal. That's part of the trajectory, the overwhelming Formula One circus that comes upon you when you're a young driver, other than the driving, and it's the off-track duties. And that is something that I'm really happy that Kimi went through this last year, and a fresh start now, having been at all the circuits, having seen the craziness and the demands of this Formula One world, is going to make it much easier for him. But be no doubt, because there is another gentleman there on the right that pushes the pedal very, very hard and very strong, and is the absolute benchmark. We also last year, when it was difficult, George just kept it on this high level. You always knew what the car is capable of doing when George was driving it, and that's a really good feeling to have someone that is so young but still having the seniority, but already having the seniority in the team, so you're not getting lost on setup work or not getting confused by performances over the weekend, because that's, you will always know that that's where the car is. So a very exciting lineup for all of us.
A very strong trio indeed. And Toto, a final word from you as we look ahead to Bahrain and then, of course, to Melbourne.
Yeah, it's relentless. We haven't stopped. Obviously, in the factories, the work has been going on non-stop, and the drivers were in the simulator a lot over the winter also. So it was the shortest break we've ever had. And between shakedown, 3 days in Barcelona, and then heading off to Bahrain literally next week and the week after, it just doesn't stop. But we're very excited to see where the performance of the car lies. I don't think we have seen the true potential of anybody else, like I said before. So it's always nice to know that it's probably not a third, the car, but something that will be fast and exciting to drive. Whether it's good enough to win races or championship is on a different sheet of paper. But we can't wait for qualifying in Melbourne to start, to have this first kind of benchmark.
Nor can we, Toto, nor can we. Toto, George, Kimi and Fred, thank you very much for joining us and good luck for the season ahead.
Thank you.
Well, that is just about all we have time for. Make sure that you are following the Mercedes F1 team on social media channels to keep up to date with all of the news in the lead up to Melbourne. But for now, roll on 2026.